Danilo, right? Am I pronouncing you right? Danilo.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Setting up your meeting. Yes, it's going to go
live.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hello,
live.
everybody. I think we had a great International Day of Yoga celebrations yesterday across the country, across our yoga Facebook, in behalf of integrative medicine, case reports, the journal dedicated to publishing articles and evidence which combine the science of yoga and Ayush systems. So we did a great, all of us had a very nice series of International Day of Yoga celebrations. But today, we are not going to stop. We are going to continue with our continuous integrative medicine updates, in particular yoga education series. And we are joined by none other than a person of high stature from all the way from the other part of the world, Brazil. We are joined by Danilo. He's online from his residence, and he's one of the people who first started yoga in Brazil. And he is a PhD, and he investigates and looks at psychobiological markers of the yoga intervention studies he has done and has been carrying on with the collaborators across the world, in particular Brazil. He has done 2 postdoctoral fellows. That's very, very impressive. And he has continued to look at the investigations using heart rate variability, biomarker approach, and so many of them. And the most interesting thing is that he has a link with India. He is linked to the Kaivalya Dham Yoga Institute down close to Lonavala in Pune. And I would now like to invite him to come over and give his talk and tell us about what has been going on in yoga research in Brazil and whatever that has been happening in the area of yoga research. Welcome, Dr. Danilo.
Thank you so much, Professor. It's a great honor to be taking part of your program, and especially in following such an important day for yoga all over the world, our International Day of celebrating this gift that India has given to all the world, which is the possibility of self-discovering and self-developing through yoga. I'm very thankful for the opportunity, and just to be precise and fair to the yoga teachers that have come before me here in Brazil, I'm not one of the first yoga teachers here. I'm one of the first scientific investigators in yoga here. Yoga came to Brazil around the decade of the 50s, 1950, around more or less, with Professor Shotaro Shimada, which was a judo champion that wanted to improve his skills and focus capability. And he got to know about Kaivalyadam, and then he sent one of his students there to study. Her name was Inês Novaes Romeu. It's an interesting story because when she got there in the 50s, Swami Digambarji, who was the successor of Swami Kuvalayanandaji, greeted her and said, "Okay, nice to meet you. Where's your husband?" And she said, "No, I'm a widower." And he said, "But where is so Mr. Romeu is dead?" And she said, "Yeah, Romeu is my family name. It's not a male's name, it's a family name." But they didn't have a yoga course there for women. So, but she had crossed 2 oceans to get to India. In those days, it was very difficult. And then the wives of the professors from Kaivalyadam that wanted to go through the course had the opportunity, and they started a women's course there. It was the first one because of her going there. So it's very nice to be here. And it's an honor to be one of the contacts of Kaivalya here in Brazil. My professor, Professor Marcos Rojo, is the great link we have with Kaivalya, with Subodhi, with Tivariji. And my first contact with a yoga professor from Kaivalya was with Professor Garoteji, which unfortunately has passed away some years ago. Well, I'm here to share some of our acknowledged productions and try to get to the comprehension that we now are able to talk not only about medicine, evidence-based medicine. We can talk about evidence-based yoga. I'm taking part of one research of one map of evidence which is being constructed on integrative medicine here in Brazil. And we have the yoga group, I'm the coordinator. There's a meditation group, there's an Ayurveda group, and so on, acupuncture, aromatherapy, and everything. But the yoga group is under my responsibility, and we have mapped more than 505 researches, meta-analysis, and reviews. And under that, 150 are of good quality and will be included in this map. And we have research on cancer, we have the research on depression, we have research on post-traumatic stress, on labor, on, of course, lower back pain, because people in the West, at least, they tend to think that yoga is asana, and especially not specifically done in the traditional way. They tend to transformate asana in a kind of exercise, but the benefits to the lower back are still there. Okay, so let's see some of the productions. I want to make a mention about a very important man who have given Swami Kuvalayananda ji and also Yogendra ji the need to go on for spreading the word of yoga, not only through contact of disciple and master, but to the society as all. Swami Madhavadas ji was a visionary. He passed on through, he has crossed 3 centuries. He lived 123 years. And he is the one who has made Swami Kuvalayananda ji a mission of going through scientific research. I'm sorry, there's an E lacking here, but he said to him that he should investigate, and if yoga was to be spread throughout the world, it should be done in the scientific language. We also have a picture here of our greatest master, Swami Kuvalayananda ji, and Professor Garotti ji when he was very young, doing research on Nauli, Madhya Nauli, Central Nauli here, with an intragastric pressure balloon. And he named this decrease, this negative pressure after his master, Swami Madhavadas. He called it Madhavadas vacuum. Nowadays, people in physical therapy have the negative pressure fitness developed. And when people in the physical therapy university, they get to interact with some yoga students, practitioners, and they say, oh, you're saying this is difficult of doing. I do Dhyana Bandha, I do Nauli Kriya every day or every week. And it is done for millennia by the Indian yogis. And they say, I don't believe it. It's so modern. So it's yoga has much more to contribute to scientific society than and to the modern society than people could ever imagine. This is our first yoga professor in Brazil, Professor Shimada, Shotaro Shimada. And he was very, very kind. And one of his greatest teachings was that we should approach yoga just the same way as somebody approaches a flower to feel its fragrance, gently, without forcing. Otherwise, you lose the biggest teachings yoga can share with you, as well as we lose the fragrance, the subtleness of it. Professor Hermógenes was another pioneer in yoga in Brazil, and he has transformed and helped lives of thousands of people through his messages. He was very devotional, and one of the things that he said is that through devotion we could approach our inner self and access reality. And when we do that, if we could do that, we would be out of normality, because people normally don't do that. And in doing that, we would find happiness. So when you go to Pubmed, the American National Institute of Health Library, online library, and this is almost 2 months old, these numbers, so it's already, it has to be updated. But if you put the word yoga as a research word without limiting dates, you have at least almost 3,000 papers. When you limit it to 5 years, you have half of it. So it means that our curve of production in knowledge in yoga has entered the exponential curve in the 5 years. Meditation is the same. If you go more, if you are more specific, pranayama, also half of the production in the 5 last years, asana too. So it shows us that we have now evidence, sufficient evidence, not to speak in terms of I think, not of, we don't have to uh, go on for unsupported data. Society doesn't accept it anymore. We must be responsible on yoga. And uh, or yoga therapists, whether yoga teachers or professors. In Brazil, many of them are not responsible enough to indicate doctors to their clients, but doctors are indicating yoga teachers and professors and therapists for their clients. So we have to be responsible and ethical in that approach. This is one of the first researches done in Kaivalya. It's a picture I took there. It's all very twisted, but we can see here it was done, I think, in 1931 or 32. And this is the stomach of a relaxed student. And this is the same student when he was stressed. Here another student, and here stress. So we have the effect of stress in stomach muscle. It is not a straight muscle. It's not like musculoskeletal muscle. It is not volunteer, but it also suffers the effects of stress, and they could show that in those days already. And nowadays, what is happening? Nowadays, we have many uh, ways of accessing the effects of yoga through modern science. We can use EEG, we can use magnetic resonance, we can use whatever, and also molecular research is happening. So in this research here, it was published in Consciousness and Cognition, a very good international medical paper and neuroscience paper. Beginners and experts practiced Brahmari Pranayam. And of course, practicing Brahmari Pranayam already creates a vibration in the cranial compartment, but it also generates activation, which was present in the EEG. Experts had a bigger spreading of that pattern, which was paroxysmal gamma waves. But when finishing Brahmari here, after Brahmari, beginners stopped that pattern, while experts continued having that pattern for more than 20 minutes, which show that there is a long-lasting effect on Brahmari, which may lead people to a better and a greater introspection and having some of the benefits of meditation and also relaxation, which normally follow a crisis, a seizure that happens, that have this same similar pattern. But with pranayam, with Brahmari pranayam, it happened without being in seizure. So you have the relaxing effect that comes after without having the seizure. This is a preparation I did in one of my postdocs in the Brain Institute in the University of Rio Grande do Norte. It's a up northeast state here in Brazil. This woman is a friend of mine, and she gave me permission to show her face. She is the wife of the director of the institute. So we did this preparation with 64 electrodes and exposed people to evoked potential, hearing evoked potential. We did sounds P, 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 point, and a different one. So the person should listen, discriminate if the sound was a recurrent one or the target one, the odd one, and count when the odd one was perceived. It creates something that is positive around 300 milliseconds after the sound, okay? And oh, I'm sorry, I think I didn't bring you the page with presentation of the result, but I can tell you. What happens is when, if we go back to this slide here, and we have this as a possible screen, we would have, let me make a pen here. We would have after, before the practice of Bhastrika Pranayam, this region here would be much activated with the oddball paradigm, and this area here would be with much activity on the neurons. After practicing the Bhastrika Pranayam for 1 month, when we repeated the maneuver, the same area, at least, and almost a little bigger area, would be deactivated. They didn't have to pay attention to the task here, and a greater area here would be still in red, much activated, which means that that with the effect of Bhastrika Pranayam, you don't have to be tense while waiting for the stimuli, and you have more quantity of neurons to attend the attentional task without being tense, which is for us very important and very, very significant. This is another research done in Harvard by Sarah Lazar, which is now one of our our friends that we do research along with her. We are collaborators, and Team Guard. They took yogi and meditation practitioners that had many hours, declared hours of practice, at least 5,000 hours of practice. And they did connectivity comparison with a group that didn't practice neither yoga, neither meditation. And the strong lines show this, we could say, here is one hemisphere and here is another hemisphere. And this shows connectivity between the two-sided hemispheres and anteroposterior connection also. We can just visually, we see that this map here has more connections than this one. And this here also has more connections, specifically anteroposterior and lateral. And these two here aren't different between them. So they said, they concluded that yoga and meditation, they preserve fluid intelligence, the capacity of the brain to adapt to different stimuli, since many areas of the brain are functionally connected. This is a research done here in Brazil by one of my friends, Rui Afonso. This is me. And this here is my tutor. And Sara Lazar was one of the authors too. This is part of the results of my postdoc. We invited people who practiced at least 3 years and were over 60 years old, practiced yoga for at least 3 years, twice a day in the traditional Kaivalya approach. And when we did the comparison of structural magnetic resonance between their brains, this is a brain of one person, okay? It's not comparing two brains. This is the left side and this is the right side. But this is not the first result. When we analyzed 3 years, we included people that had practiced for at least 3 years. We didn't have any difference. But we had 3 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, 25 years, 34 years, a very broad spectrum of practices. And I remembered when I started teaching yoga, I started only with elderly people. And it took me at least 3 years to convince them that I didn't want just to give them stretching exercises, that I wanted them to pay attention in an inner layer of their personalities through yoga, through real yoga. And then, so I told Elisa Cosaza, let's make the cut line a little bigger. Let's go for 6 years. When we went for our data, we had no 6 years practitioners, but we had starting from 8. So this is the result. They have the superior medial and inferior middle prefrontal cortex thicker than people that don't practice yoga. They are matched by age, they are matched by physical activity, and for years of instruction and handedness. So it means that yoga really has a protective effect on the brain, on the human brain. If we want to try and avoid Alzheimer's disease, for instance, we should begin practicing yoga before damage is done to the brain, before gliosis, before losing gray matter from the brain. And also with the same population, I did an investigation comparing anteroposterior connectivity of the brain, because the FOMOD network is a network that is working, is very much engaged when we are resting, but thinking about projections of our own into the future or into the past, or making plans. So, and we have to be able to disengage from this network. The point is that when people get older, they lose the ability to disengage the default mode network when they are asked for an attentional task, for instance. So if they preserve connectivity, it may be one good effect of yoga, because preserved connectivity may mean that they can disengage the default mode network when necessary. The default mode network is also very much engaged in cases of depression and rumination and mind wandering. So this result here shows us that when I take this medial prefrontal cortex um, as a seed, as a region of interest to check the connectivity of the brain, this other structure here, okay, the angular gyrus, is very well connected to the anterior part of the brain. So the connectivity, anteroposterior connectivity of the brain, is preserved in those people too. And one last paper, I don't want to take your times for so long, your time for so long. We also did research on Bastrika Pranayama, on anxiety, affect, and brain functional connectivity. And we have shown that people who practiced 1 month of yoga had state, trait, and anxiety decreased. State and trait anxiety decreased from baseline to post practice. And they also had some effect similar to that one of Gart and Sarah Lazar. They had preserved connectivity amongst many, many structures of the brain. And this connectivity was correlated to changes in depression. So keeping the brain more connected, functionally connected, is one of the possible indicators that the person or the people may be less prone to develop anxiety and depression. In that sense, there has been proposed by the Japanese Yoga Therapy Society, and along with participants from India, from Brazil, from the United States, from Europe, to establish a global consortium on yoga therapy. The first consortium was in Sendai, Japan. The second one was in Amsterdam. And the third one was supposed to happen here in Brazil, presentially, but then COVID-19 had us to cancel it, and it's going to be online. We have SVASA as one of the representatives of India. We also have Kaivalyadam giving support in not a very formal way yet, but we are talking to Subodhi about being a integral part of the consortium. And anyway, one of the missions of this global consortium is try to establish or try to at least to make, I am one of the researchers developing a global survey to know how people approach yoga therapy in their countries and what are the prerequisites for one to be called a yoga therapist. Is there a law that regulates it in your country? Is there not? How many hours? What is the syllabus of a course for people to become a yoga therapist? Is it similar or different than to become a yoga teacher? So these are some of the things that the consortium is going for. And just to finish, now in September, on the 12th and 13th of September, we are going to have our second international symposium on yoga therapy. Sarah Lazar is coming, Shirley Tellis is coming, Subodhi coming in internet way, yes, online. And also Dr. Bogalji is coming and Dr. Boliji. So it is a great pleasure for us that some good is coming out of the bad that this pandemic thing that is happening, because this webinar wouldn't have so many international and important people coming to presentially to Brazil. We would have only 2 probably. But then again, we will have the chance to learn from you and from all these very prominent researchers that are coming, and maybe we learn something more that we can share with society. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Danilo, for a very informative and very nice and calm and soothing presentation, talking about your interaction and collaboration with Sarah Lazar's work, showing the structural changes that can happen with yoga, and also bringing out the importance of unifying or common therapy educational programs. How can we come together? In India, we do have a level 1, level 2, level 3 program, initially taken up by the Quality Council of India. For example, I am level 1. So there is a level 2 and 3. As you move forward with more theoretical knowledge, more practical knowledge, and also then up to more better teaching knowledge as well. In terms of therapy, I do not know, but this is as far as yoga teaching, so the education is concerned. Uh, but that was very nicely presented, and some very nice pictures of Kevalya Dham and some old pictures of. They are very famous pictures. Not of many of our viewers, apart from those who have been associated with Kevalya Dham, know about them, about the interest of our first Prime Minister visiting Kevalya Dham and those nice, beautiful experiments that you mentioned. So we really thank you that you took out time and joined us and joined our Facebook viewers. And you rightly said that this lockdown has been a blessing for yoga enthusiasts and people involved in integrative medicine, because we are from a medical institute and we run this journal, Integrative Medicine Case Reports. We are looking forward to single case reports or benefits from such interventions, and also from interventions from the Ayurveda standpoint as well, or other Ayush system standpoint. And we've been doing this for last 90 days, almost 90 days. And we've learned a lot. And today we had a new dimension of learning from you as well. So we'll quickly look at people on the panel, if they can give any inputs. My phone is a little away into charging, which is actually driving this internet. So I'm not able to look at the Facebook viewers' questions. Can any of you on the panel, Kanupriya, Kalyan, look for questions, any immediate questions? That is one. Please look into the Facebook. You can also look at it, Danilo, if you can, into the Facebook. Otherwise, we will let others here ask, take 1 or 2 questions. We have from someone from Brazil, Cardamomo Madhava, and we have Kanupriya. If they have any pressing question to ask, from research to practice, or even the meeting that he mentioned.
Let me see if I find something here.
Sir, if we would like to join the meeting you mentioned, the meeting which is going to happen in September, is there any registration for that? How to register if we want to join for that?
Okay. Registration will probably happen through one of the how can I say, the companies that do online registration. We are still making a research to see which one we will hire for doing that. So it could be oh, I just forgot the names now. But anyway,
I think she's more. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think she's more asking, probably asking for any registration fee for students. Is there a fee, or is there a?
There will be a fee for registration, which is 108 of our money, reais, which in dollars would be around $18. really don't want to charge expensively, because we want people the more people that have access to that kind of information, the best for us. We will probably hire a platform as Zoom or some other with capacity to 5,000 people. So we are looking forward to have a very big attendance, but international students should be aware that Brazilian lecturers will speak in Portuguese, and we want translation to English, at least not interpretative translation, maybe only that one that Google provides that is done instantly. Okay, but
Thank
then
you.
we have talking in English, Sarah Lazar, Shirley Tellis, Suboji, which is going to give a 10-minute lecture in the opening, as long as the Consul of India here in Brazil. Subo, Dr. Bogalji, and Dr. Boliji. So
Thank you for that information. I hope this satisfies Kanupriya. Any other question from the Facebook or otherwise?
when everything is done, we have the site for the symposium. I will send you the links for it.
Great. And please consider partnering with our Facebook, which has already, as I mentioned in the beginning, crossed 1 million mark. So a lot of people, serious people interested in collaboration, education, research, a lot of healthcare worker providers. From all of us at this journal, Integrative Medicine Case Report, thank you for this wonderful presentation. And we hope to remain connected with you and
Connected.
wish you a good success for this great meeting. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to have been invited and to have had the opportunity of being here. And I really hope we keep connected, because it's very important to spread and keep the net of seriously committed people around the production of knowledge of yoga and all the integrative medicine, because medical people still have to be more supportive of the traditional medical or allopathic medicine, still have to be convinced of the importance of the integrative medicine.
Absolutely.
So
you said it right. And this is exactly why we are doing this series, this continuous education series. Been going on for 90 days without interruption, theory, practice of yoga, even Ayush, Ayurveda, bringing people and leaders and thought leaders such as yours, also from policy. Definitely, we should join hands and work together to make this a more beautiful, healthy world. Thank you again, Danilo. Thanks again. Bye-bye to Brazil. Bye. Namaste.
Bye-bye.